really create safe environments where either gender can report, where they are heard and believed, and where I mean, look at the Penn State stuff. I mean, that was massive, and you're talking about children being victimized, which is really the whole Penn State case has really opened up. A huge amount of men are coming forward and talking, which is so great. But just the idea of anyone being really cocooned with silence just it's so sad. And we can be better than that. We can be better as a society than that.
Why do you think, and when you mentioned something about Penn State, that brought me back to the case of the very well-known pastor from Atlanta, Bishop Eddie Long. Why do you think, for anyone who doesn't know the case in regards to Eddie Long is a pastor. He's a pastor. He's a senior pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. It's a mega church in unincorporated DeKalb County, Georgia, near Atlanta. And during his tenure there at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church there outside of Atlanta, he was the focus of some sexual improprieties, some alleged sexual improprieties in regards to young teenage boys that were, I guess, that he was their mentor. And this happened probably maybe 10 or 15 years ago, anywhere from 10 to 15 years ago. And the men are now grown men. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. And now the men have come forward all these years later. These men were, 14, 15, 16, and now here they are, 29, 30, 31 years old. Why do you think that they waited so long to say something about it when they could have nipped it in the bud when it was still occurring?
Well, I think we just talked about the fact that it's very difficult for men to come forward. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes when you have these incidences where one person comes forward, it almost opens the floodgates for other people to say, yes, I was victimized the same way, and I thought it was just me. I thought that was just here, but no, it wasn't. So, and then it makes it a little bit easier for someone else, and that's a good thing for those doors to be open, because the amount of bravery it must have taken to initially come forward, especially when you're talking not just the fact that these are men who are boys who are victimized coming forward, but now you're not only that, but now you're having to deal with an entire congregation that may ostracize you because you've come forward against someone who is well liked and popular. So you have to look at it that way too.
And that's another thing too in regards to the stereotypes about sexual assaulters. One thing that was discussed in the Jerry Sandusky case was that a lot of individuals who do sexually assault, they are very popular, very well educated, very well liked members of the community. They're not the stalker in the bushes type person that people think of. They're, like I said, very well dressed, look good, smell good, teeth shiny, always got, a breath mint in their mouth, hair combed, very well, very nice looking individuals. And I think that's another reason, you said popularity. Some people think that popularity just conquers all. If you're popular, then, people won't care. But if you're this nobody, if you're this trash, and condemn them. And I think that's where that idea needs to be tossed out the window. That just because you're a well-respected member of the community doesn't mean you don't have the potential to, do something criminal. And I think, once we get that idea out the window, then more people will be willing to maybe accept the fact that, this person just might have the potential to do this. And if you ask that person, well, why don't you think that person did it? Oh, well, because they're this and they're that, and they've given this amount of money to charity, and they've done this for all of, my kids are on his football team. Sorry.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, that doesn't mean anything. That really doesn't mean anything. What about spousal rape? I want to discuss rape amongst married couples. A lot of people don't think that this exists. Expound on spousal rape for us. What is it? What does it entail? What are the legal ramifications surrounding it? All of it.
Well, a lot of it, when we're talking about marital rape, there's a lot of times misconceptions, and we come across that a lot. Well, you can't possibly rape someone you're married to. Well, no, you absolutely can. If, just because two people have been together and have had sex many times before, that does not mean that a person's body is a mini mart. They are not open and convenienced for another person 24 hours a day. That's not how it works. Consent has to be given each and every time. But, it just really does. Consent has to be given each and every time. And when you're talking about marital rape, a lot of times that has to do with, where we have domestic violence situations, and marital rape is a component to those domestic violence situations.
If a woman, how does if a woman says, no, I'm tired, not tonight, and the man proceeds to try to get what he wants anyway, how can a woman go about, how do you report that? How do you report that? How do you explain that to somebody?
I think that, it's a hugely personal choice to report, especially when you're reporting about a spouse. And I would think that it would be even more challenging to report if given a situation with a spouse, because you're not only talking about the fact that you're reporting about your own rape, but then you're also ending your marriage, basically, potentially in the same capacity. If you're saying, no, I was raped, and then having to go through the entire forensic exam process, and then having to go through the investigation, and it's a huge ordeal. So I would imagine that it would be exceptionally difficult to come forward after a situation where marital rape has occurred. And the thing is too, is that my experience with domestic violence victims, a lot of times they aren't even 100% sure that they've been victimized with marital rape until someone really puts kind of the power and control wheel in front of them and starts to explain, well, if you were having sex with him but you didn't want to, and because you were afraid, then that's rape. And that seeing folks really understand that can be very devastating.
They don't realize, it's like, oh my goodness, I was victimized.
Exactly. I was victimized in this way.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's also joked on TV shows.
Oh, absolutely.
That is a huge. That's one of the biggest jokes on movies and TV shows. Like the guy's trying to beg for it, and then the wife is just like, oh, okay, all right, fine, but she's just not doing anything. And I think that's one of the jokes that you see, and you don't feel like it's that serious until
you're faced with it. Yeah.
Exactly.
There was like quality time. Like, I can't get any quality time. And the thing is that, if you really look at it, it needs to be quality time where both people find that it's quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you're right. Media talks about violence against women all the time and makes a big joke out of it.
Joke, yeah.
I was I was getting ready to go just earlier today, and I'm watching like American Dad. It's a satire. It's a satire. But in the course of 60 seconds that I'm walking through the living room, there's a domestic violence joke. And I'm like, I get that it's satire, but at the same time, somebody else who's watching this, do they recognize that it's satire? Do they recognize that, this isn't funny? So it's amazing how much media portrays this kind of stuff, and we just don't even, it's just our culture. We don't even recognize it all the time.
It is 55 minutes past the hour here on 91.9 FM WLJS Jacksonville. When we come back, I want to talk about sexual assault and its relationship with social networking. That's coming up here on Late Night with Ed Moore III. You're listening to Sexual Assault in America. We will be right back after this commercial break.
Its ups and downs. Turn your pretty face ugly frown. Seems that when I fix one thing, another one comes, clouding up my vision. But I can feel the sun. I believe that I can do this. I know that I can win, just as long as I have His love within. I believe that I can make it. I can make it through the night. I believe that I can walk on with my head held high. I believe that I am special in every way. But in order to have my victory, I gotta believe. Oh, yeah.
Take your time and tell me how to make it.
I have to see myself at the finish line.
Talk about it.
I have to visualize that everything will fall in line. Have to visualize the land while riding through the storm. I have to trust in my Father and open up my heart. I know that I can do this. I know that I can win, just as long as I have His love within. I believe. Oh, yeah. I believe I can walk on with my head held high. I believe that I am special. Yeah, 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 yeah. But in order to have my victory, oh, heartbreak and heart pain, being let down, no one's around. I believe I can. I receive I can. And now I'm walking right into my victory. I believe that I can. I believe I'll walk on. I am special. Yes, I am. And in order to have victory, everybody help me say, oh, I believe. Oh, I believe. I'm gonna walk up with my head held high. I believe that there's nobody like me. And in order for me to have victory, I gotta believe. Yeah.
59 minutes past the hour here on 91.9 FM, WLJS Jacksonville. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Sexual Assault in America show. Before we went to the commercial break, I told you all that we were going to expound on sexual assault and its relationship with social networking. Miss Fleming-Smith, could you just try to explain to us how sexual assault is potentially related to social networking, things such as Facebook and Twitter? You know, we live in a Twitter and Facebook age, you know. and could you tell us exactly how sexual violence is related to the world of social networking?
Well, I think you have a couple different ways about it because, you know, when people are involved with social networking, I think that, you know, it's really connecting people. And I think, you know, since we do have we do have a hookup culture where, you know, people are like, you know, hey, what are you doing? And you can potentially see where, you know, you're having two people meet up, and it could be a person who's meeting a predator, you know, or meeting a perpetrator of sexual violence. And I think you have to be very, very careful with internet safety and not giving too much information about yourself and really paying attention to that. And the thing too is that everybody thinks, because it's human, I mean, even me, everybody thinks, well, you know, that's not going to happen to me. You know, at some point somebody's thought that in your head, well, you know, oh, that happens to someone else. It doesn't happen to people like me. You know, it's, you know, or I'm upstanding, or I do this, you know, or I go to church, or I do, you know, I'm on the football team. This can't happen to me, so I'm not going to worry about it. and then you're out there on social networking, and then you get into a situation where it's dangerous, and or any kind of situation where sexual violence could be involved, and it's dangerous. So you have to be paying attention to that. Internet safety is hugely important, and I would be very cautious to meet up with anybody that you've met online, just in general.
I think that, be very cautious. And in the world we live in today, I think that meeting up with somebody on the internet is setting yourself up, because you do not know who you're talking to. You don't hear the tone of their voice.
Exactly.
You don't hear anything